Our series, Show and Tell, will take you inside some of the great libraries, both public and private, to explore books and treasures from Jewish history.
So this happens to be super rare. It has Jewish content, though it's not necessarily a Jewish book, but any American would know what it is. This is the very first Congress of the United States. It was in 1776. So this is the journals of the Proceedings of Congress. So this will be the very first proceedings, and it's a record of what was going on. The capital at the time was Philadelphia. The British were coming towards Philadelphia. The Congress eventually moved the capital towards Lancaster. And in the meantime, he published, the printer writes that he published 80 copies. He sold 80 copies. The rest of the copies, he says, they had to take and use the paper for cartridges for the rifles of the army. So only 80 copies survived.
The rest they had to use that material for
cartridges.
military,
Yeah. So there was a shortage of paper, and all it is the actual discussions that happened in Congress. But believe it or not, there were several Jews mentioned. Even though there were only maybe a few thousand Jews in the U.S. at the time, there were several very prominent people. The Gretz family, there were two brothers, Michael Gretz, who was mentioned here. He was born in Prussia. He was a prominent businessman, and he supplied and lent money to the Revolutionary Army. So he was discussed here with his negotiations with the Indians. But this is something, for example, that the only sale record I found was about $35,000. So
so this is where
So it has a value, from the American historical sense, but of course it has Jewish content as well.
Where did you get this?
A house in Connecticut.
Did they know they had this?
Yeah, I mean they called Sotheby's first. Sotheby's took a few books, and then I paid service money for it. But it's an interesting story also. So here we have a tshuva on the subject of Eruvin.
Responsa.
Responsa, written by Rav Moshe Feinstein.
Wow, an original.
It's an original tshuva. So of course the tshuva was published, and you can see this. Generally what would happen is a Rav would write a tshuva. He would try to keep a copy for himself. Even Rishonim, we have records of them keeping copies for themselves. That's how we have, tshuva Saritva or tshuva Sarashba, because they kept a copy for themselves and then gathered it together for their Talmidim, etc. But you can sort of see into the mind of the publishing process. So this seems to be the copy they used for printing.
Printing the actual Igros Moshe.
Igros Moshe, because they write the Simanim here, and you can see the Moshe crossed out what he decided not to include in the printing, and some notes to add in here and there. A little bit of corrections. So you can.
How did you get this? How did this come to you?
I mean, it came from one collector to another, but this was again most likely the copy that was given to the printer. And at some point, I guess it became either the printer's copy, because the family, I think, still has their own copies, and the recipient of the letter would have still had his copy.
And how much is this worth?
Their Moshe's tshuvas today are between $1,000 to $2,000 a page. A lot of times with tshuvas, it goes by page, so the longer the tshuva, the more expensive it will be. And the subject matter is always helps if it's an interesting subject. The Eruvin Tchumen is, Rav Moshe's one of his more famous fields, and I sold one, for example, to a customer of mine who framed it, 4 pages with a picture of a Moshe in the middle. It's in his dining room.
Beautiful.
It's as great as you can get. I mean, to have something like that in your house, it's as close as you can get to somebody who's no longer here. This is a group of letters that was in somebody's house in Borough Park, and it's letters written to and by this organization of Sabbath Observers in Civil Service. So this is 1940s, and you had Jews in the U.S. Army, naturally, and the organization is trying to assist with people to keep Shabbos during wartime. So it's letters back and forth from the Army, sometimes with success, sometimes with less success. The Army writes back to them once, in other words, it's pikuach nefesh, we can't really help you with this. But this was at a time where even private people, keeping Shabbos was a real issue. And here is a letter written to Governor Dewey, trying to Saturday school sessions bill. So this was a organization that was committed to just helping people
keep Shabbos.
That's just, as some basic rights that we have today were definitely not given Here are postcards written by soldiers to
What
the
are these?
organizations.
These are
These are
who
actual
are dealing with Shabbos
yeah.
observance.
So they have issues. They're trying to get them to intervene. One woman was fired as a secretary in an army office for not willing to work on Shabbos.
And what was the name of this organization?
Sabbath Observers in Civil Service.
Sabbath Observers in Civil Service.
I tried my best. I could not find the record of these people. It is again A.B. Goldstein. I don't know if it's the same Goldstein as
From the OK.
We could not figure out the address. Seems to be associated with Radio
Mr.
City
Abe
Synagogue.
Goldstein, care of Sabbath Observers in Civil Service. You have to come to Mizrahi to really believe it and soak up not just the books, not just the people, but the entire world that are preserved in this library. A one-of-a-kind place, a one-of-a-kind person. Israel Mizrahi, what an incredible bookstore.
Thank you. You're welcome to come. And the idea is to experience the books, not just the content in them, the stories that they tell. Every book here had a previous owner. Some of these people are famous, some of them not, but they all had these books. They meant something to them. Oftentimes it's many people. It could have been owned by communities, by libraries that are no longer in existence. And everything that we can keep and preserve for another generation is really something that would not survive without us. So it's a mission, and it's at the same time it's enjoyable. So you're welcome to come.
Incredible. What an incredible place.